Hey YouTube, it's Maryland Girl. I wanted to do a follow-up video to the video that I did about Bill Cosby being released from prison. Is this justice for Black America? Because, in my video, I said, no, this is not justice for Black America because Bill Cosby is guilty. He is guilty of not by in the court, but he's guilty of raping, like 60 women. And I don't believe that having a Black man who is a known rapist walking the streets, even if he's in his 80s, I don't consider that justice for Black America. But that view is not shared by all of Black America. There are a lot of people who actually are celebrating that Bill Cosby got out of prison because they didn't think that he should go in the first place. So while a lot of us are disappointed, angry, frustrated, there are people that are celebrating. And so I felt like I needed to do this video to say some things. One, Bill Cosby being released from prison on a technicality does not mean he is innocent. The conviction was overturned, but that does not mean that he is innocent of those crimes. He is not out of prison because it was discovered that he didn't actually do the things that he did. As I said in my last video, the facts were not really in dispute. Like, he did those things. He did say what he said in his deposition. And he felt free to explain in his deposition that he gave quaaludes to women that he wanted to have sex with because he didn't think that he would be later charged criminally. And because he was later charged criminally, that is why he is out of prison now, because they're saying that that was unfair. If he had known that he was going to be charged criminally, he wouldn't have basically admitted to doing what he did in that deposition. So he is not innocent. And I'm seeing a lot of people revisiting some of these older videos about, his accusers. And I actually was doing that myself. I saw this CNN documentary about his accusers, and it came out in 2018. And I've never seen this. And so I watched the whole thing. And it started this whole, you go down this YouTube rabbit hole of videos. And so I watched a few of them from his, the women who accused him. And it was really eye-opening. And so I felt like I just wanted to share some thoughts on that. I do believe his accusers. I do believe them. I do believe that they're telling the truth. Even though I am not someone who believes in the slogan, believe all women or believe women. And I know that recently there's been this debate about, if you say believe women, do you mean believe all women all the time without any investigation? And people are saying, no, that's not what we meant. And I just want to speak to that real quick. That's a lie. That is exactly what you guys meant. People who went around saying hashtag believe women, and there were people saying literally believe all women. And that's why people were coming out and saying, no, you're taking it too far. You're trying to promote something good, but you're taking it, making this huge blanket statement. Like, if a woman says something, she's telling the truth, believe her all the time. And people had to push back against that and say, no, that's kind of a dangerous slogan to promote, because we don't want to take the pendulum. The pendulum is on one side, where people almost never believe women. And then we swing it to the other side, where you always believe women. That's dangerous. And so I wanted to do this video to explain why I believe Bill Cosby's accusers, even though I do not, in quotes, believe all women or believe women. That slogan is not something that I support. But also, I kind of wanted to explain why there are people, even to this day, who do not believe rape victims and who do not believe specifically the stories of Bill Cosby's victims. Because I feel like that there is a disconnect between victims of rape and complete strangers who are hearing their stories. Why is there that disconnect? Why are people not believing? And so because I've been one of those people who I've heard these stories and I didn't believe them. And then as time went on, I slowly began to believe. I want to explain what's happening here because even me, I'm getting frustrated with seeing all of these black people cheering and being happy that Bill Cosby is out of prison. And I'm like, they still don't believe that he did this stuff. They really still don't believe. So I want to explain a little bit of what's going on. And it's not going to alleviate all of my frustration or anyone else's frustration. But I hear what the victims are saying, what accusers are saying, whether it's Bill Cosby's accusers or other people's accusers. And I hear what, complete strangers are saying. And so I feel like we need to have kind of like a meeting of the minds. All right. And I just want to explain what's going on. Why do complete strangers not believe rape victims? Why do complete strangers not believe specifically Bill Cosby's victims, even to this day? Number one, they like the person being accused and they simply don't want to believe it. They know this person, they like this person, especially when you're talking about somebody like Bill Cosby. If he was one of your favorite comedians, if you grew up watching him on TV, or maybe you didn't grow up watching him, maybe you were already older, but he was on a show that you really liked and he was playing, a character that was a family man and teaching his kids good values, being a good husband. And as I said, even though that was a fictional show, a lot of the plot of that show was pulled directly from his life. So we really didn't believe that there was much difference between Bill Cosby, the man, and Dr. Heathcliff Huxtable, the character. Okay. He has a different profession. And those are actors, not his real wife, not his real kids. But basically, we kind of thought this is the same guy, right? And I said, just like Everybody Loves Raymond, we basically feel like this is the same guy, even though we know this is a fictional show. So yeah, if you are accusing someone that is well liked, that's a big hurdle to overcome. Whereas if you accuse somebody that I don't even like, I'm like, it's easier for me to believe that because I already feel like maybe there's something deficient in that person's character. So I'm like, yeah, I can believe that they did that. If you accuse Woody Allen of raping someone, it's really easy for me to believe that because, do you like Woody Allen? There's some people it might be easier to believe than someone else who seems like an upstanding person that you like. Another thing, they don't know the accuser and they have no way to know if they are credible. The one that they know, in this case, Bill Cosby, or I'll put "no" in quotes because we don't know Bill Cosby. We just watch him on TV. We don't know him, but I'll put "no" in quotes. The one that you know is the one that you trust. So who am I gonna believe? The guy who I've been watching on TV since I was a little kid, or this complete stranger? I don't know who you are. So there's a credibility issue there. And now, granted, I don't know any of these people, right? But if I had to choose one, I'm going to go with the person that I've seen on TV for years, who seems like a decent person, again, that I like. Now, if the victim is like a relative of yours, if a relative of yours comes to you and says, this happened to me, that happened to me, now there's credibility there. I know you. I know your character. I know you're not going to make up something like that. So if it's someone you know, of course, even if it's someone you know and they're accusing someone you like of doing something, it's like, but I know you. I know that you wouldn't, make that up. Another reason, and this is a big reason, complete strangers expect victims to have perfect behavior and only do logical things. So when I say perfect behavior, there's this idea that if you're a victim of sexual assault, everything you do that led up to the moment of sexual assault needs to be logical, needs to be perfect. And everything you did after the sexual assault needs to be logical, needs to be perfect, because the complete stranger is listening to your story and they're trying to say, does this make sense? Does this seem believable? And what they're listening for is logic. And if you deviate from logic, it's going to sound like a red flag. So the number one I will say this, there's two things that sound like red flags. When victims wait too long to tell their story. So if something happens to you and then you don't go to the police right away, a complete stranger is going to be like, okay, you got raped. Why didn't you go right to the police? You should have gotten in your car and gone directly to the police, you know, and that's coming from the mind of a person who's never been sexually assaulted. So they don't understand like the frame of mind that a victim would be in. The person might be like, look, I just want to go somewhere. I want to go home. I want to go where I feel safe. I want to take a shower. I don't want to think about this. I don't want to talk about it. Like they're going through so many feelings and emotions. So they may not do exactly what we think they should have done, which is go to the police, file a report, tell 5 people, like do all of these things. They're not in that frame of mind. And so when they're telling their story, people will say, why didn't you say something? Why did you wait 10 years? Why did you wait 20 years? Why did you wait 30 years? There's no evidence. Now, there's no, like, that is what complete strangers are listening for. And there's just a disconnect there. We wanted you to do something logical and you didn't do it. So now we have a hard time believing you. Another thing that counts as not being the perfect victim is when you hear stories of someone who, okay, they got sexually assaulted and then they went back. You're like, well, that's illogical. Why would you go back multiple times? That doesn't make any logical sense. And that stands out to people as a red flag. That's going to be, one of those questions that people ask. And so I was watching these interviews on YouTube of these, accusers being interviewed. And there was one where Don Lemon was interviewing one of the accusers, and people in the comments were like, that's a really inappropriate question. Why are you asking her? Why did you go back? Or why are you asking these questions? But I appreciate that he asked that question, because these are the questions that complete strangers want to know as they're trying to decide who to believe. Do I believe Bill Cosby, or do I believe this complete stranger that I don't know? I need to try and figure out who seems more credible here. And the woman who says, okay, I got sexually assaulted and then I went back 3 times, that becomes a really hard, I don't want to say like boulder to get. It becomes like a something that trips you up. Like, I just can't believe this person because they went back multiple times. How could you do that? But when I watch, that CNN documentary, and when I watch these women tell their stories, you really just see the complexity of human nature and emotions. And in those moments, it is not all about logic. Like, how can I live my life in the most logical way so that when I have to tell this story 20 years from now, people think it makes sense? That's not how you're living in the moment, And so I understand those questions, where they come from, because I myself have those questions. But when I listen to those people tell their stories, I'm just like, this is a lot more complicated than, I got sexually assaulted and then I left and I never saw that person again. I never talked to them again. When I hear multiple women say, I, I saw this person again, or I went back, or whatever, it's hard to hear it and it's hard to understand, but I can kind of understand it, So some people will say, well, that's proof that you're lying, right? But think of it this way. If I was going to lie and say that somebody sexually assaulted me, wouldn't I tell the perfect story? I wouldn't tell a story where I went back multiple times. I wouldn't tell that story. If I was going to lie, I might say they came to me multiple times, like they came to my house, or they found me outside my car, or they snatched me in an alley. I might say that, because I want to make myself look like, air quotes, the perfect victim. But I think the fact that there's some complexity to their story and complexity to what they were feeling emotionally and how they responded to this, to me, I think it actually makes it more credible. Like initially I felt like, no, this is dumb. Why would you go back? Because when people hear that you went back, they think, no, you were in a consensual relationship. If you're going back multiple times, this is now consensual. But if you really think about it, if I was going to lie, I wouldn't tell you I went back multiple times because it sounds hard to believe. I would make my story as believable as possible. So that's another reason why people don't believe it, because there's elements to the story that are illogical. But it doesn't mean it's not true if you really think about it. So yeah, along with that is the idea of the casting couch, and that there are people who are willing to have sex with someone, a producer, a director, whoever, in exchange for a role. And they will just listen to these women's stories, especially when they involve going back multiple times. And they will say, look, this was consensual. You just wanted to get a role on this show. You wanted a role on the Cosby Show, or you wanted, help with your career. And that's why you did this. You just need to accept that you didn't get what you wanted out of it. You were hoping it was going to, launch your career, and it didn't. And now you're mad, you're bitter. And now you want to, say this person raped you, but just because the casting couch experience does exist does not mean that that's exactly the category that these women fall into, that that's exactly what they did. It could be that, Bill Cosby was using the fact that he had his own show as a mechanism to get these young, hopeful actresses sort of in his orbit, so that he could sexually assault them. And one other thing with the casting couch, we have to remember that these accusations aren't just that he forced himself on me, that he had sex with me, whatever. It's that he was drugging these women. He's always giving them wine. He's always giving them something to drink. Oh, you have a headache? I have some pills to help you with that. Oh, you're not feeling well? I have the, I made your favorite drink. I mean, if you listen to these stories, you hear this again and again and again. So I would say that goes beyond, the casting couch. This man is getting these women in his orbit. He's giving them something to drink, something to eat, and then they're being drugged so that he can have his way with them. So we cannot say, oh, you were having consensual sex with someone in exchange for getting a role on their show. The minute you're drugging someone, we can no longer claim that these were, consensual encounters. So, I do just, want to make that point. Another reason why people who are complete strangers don't believe women is because they haven't heard the details for themselves directly from the victims. So I had heard, these stories, and I'd seen, news coverage of this, as all of these different women are, piling on these different accusations. And I was just like, I don't believe these women. This is crazy. I don't believe that Bill Cosby would do this. But I had never sat down and watched each of these women tell their stories so that I could see for myself, their face, their facial expressions, their mannerisms, their body language, and decide for myself if I think they're telling the truth. A lot of people have made their decision about whether they believe these women or not without ever having heard the story from these women directly. They just know that this is going on. They know the man went to prison, or he was about to go to prison, years ago. They've heard from other people summarizing what's happening, but they didn't see the women tell their story. And it makes such a difference when you can see someone tell their story, hear them tell their story, and decide for yourself. It's really easy to not believe someone when you haven't even seen their face. Now, some people are very good actors, very good actresses, and they can, turn on tears and, do all of this stuff. But I think most people are actually, even if you're a good actor on camera for a role, I think most people actually kind of suck at lying, and there will be tells. They will give themselves away in some way. Um, and then there's the obvious reason why some complete strangers don't believe um, when they hear that somebody, if they hear someone accusing someone of rape, is just the fact that some people lie, and they lie, and they ruin a man's life in the process of lying. And there are men who have been killed over a woman lying and saying, somebody raped me, or somebody looked at me, or somebody whistled at me, or there was Emmett Till lost his life over lies. you know um there have been men who have spent decades in prison because a woman lied, you know and a lot of black men have been on the receiving end of that. So it's just so weird to me that over the last few years there was this whole believe women or believe all women movement, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Are we just going to forget about all the men that have been killed or have gone to prison, and they were wrongfully accused? Like, you're just going to say a woman's word is enough? Like, are you for real? I mean, and then we have the story in the Bible where, Joseph was accused of rape and he didn't do it. And so I'm just like, we're really doing this? We're really just going to say if women say something, it's the truth? And like I said in my other video, I see women on TV lying every day. They get paid for their career to lie to the American people every day. Don't you tell me women don't ever lie. Don't tell me that, you know? That does happen. Now, as I said, I believe the vast majority of women who say that something like this happened to them are telling the truth. Because most women, whatever our flaws may be, we are not going to be so evil as to ruin someone's life over this type of accusation. And this is one of the worst things you can do. Rape and murders. This is one of the worst things that you can do. We're not going to say someone murdered somebody if it didn't happen. We're not going to say somebody raped somebody if it didn't happen. So the vast majority of women who are saying this are telling the truth. But you got to weed through and find the ones who are willing to lie. So that's another reason. We just know that not everybody tells the truth. If I wish I could say that women had a 100% honesty rating, but we don't. There are some of us who, would lie like that. Most of us wouldn't, but some would. Another reason we have a hard time believing complete strangers about this is I also think that on a very basic level, we think rape is so bad and so horrible and so evil that I think we just can't handle accusations of rape. Like, we just don't want to believe that it could happen. Like we know that it happens in the world, but we don't really think that it's ever going to happen to someone we know, or we don't think we're ever going to have to deal with it. And that because rape is so bad, it's so evil, it's so ugly, we think that there's certain types of people who would be rapists, right? Like, you could just look at this person and say, you look kind of creepy, you look kind of sketchy. Like, yeah, I'd believe it. I'd believe if someone said that you were a rapist because you look like a criminal. You look like, in my mind, this profile that I have of what a rapist is, right? It's an ugly crime, and only like really crusty, mean looking people would do something like that, right? But we're not prepared for the person who is clean cut, wearing a suit, family man, friendly, has a great personality, has really good people skills. We're not prepared for that type of person to be a rapist. So if you accuse somebody who's clean, well groomed, dresses well, has a great personality, seems nice, you accuse that person, that's a big hurdle. Like I said, accusing somebody that is well liked and well respected is a big hurdle. But if that person also just if they look nice, if they don't look like in our mind what we think a rapist looks like, it's going to be hard to convince people of that, you know? And then there's two final reasons that I kind of want to explain. One reason why people are not going to believe complete strangers is because they're just stubborn or selfish, misogynists, and they're just never going to believe. Like, there's nothing you could tell these people that would convince them. You could give them all the evidence in the world and they just would be like, nah, that didn't happen. They're just stubborn. And then sort of going along with this, I think maybe eventually you will convince them, but they will never admit that you convinced them, and they just won't care. They know. And I think that there is a lot of people out there who know that Bill Cosby assaulted these women, and I think they don't care. Sadly, I'm sorry to say that, but I think they don't care, you know? I think that they are just happy that he got away with it. I don't know how many people that this applies to, but I think when it's all said and done, there are some people in the Black community, it's mostly men, and what they want is the license to get away with crimes. The same way white men have gotten away with crimes. Well, white men have gotten away with this for years, you know. And so for me, I say, well, I'm all for equality. If Black men are going to go to prison for certain crimes, white men need to go, Latino men need to go, Asian men need to go. If you commit this crime, you need to go. But there are people within the Black community. There are Black men within the Black community. That's not what they want. What they want is, well, these white men are getting away with it. Why can't we get away with it too? They don't want equality of going to prison. They want equality of getting away with crimes. And so there are some people, when they see that Bill Cosby got away with this, they say, look at American history. Look at the number of times that white men have gotten away with rape, with murder, with doing all of this crazy stuff. And look at the number of times innocent Black men have been killed, have gone to prison for stuff they didn't do. And now one Black man gets away with it. So be it. They know he did it, and they simply don't care. So unfortunately, there are some people who think that way. I am not one of those people. I'm one of those people that I'm like, no, all y'all can go to prison. Yeah, Harvey Weinstein, you can go. Bill Cosby, you can go. Donald Trump, you can go. All y'all can go. Yeah, you can all go together. I don't care. You can keep each other company. But no, I'm not for, well, if they didn't go, then we shouldn't go. No, you can all go. How about that? You can all go. Yeah, in order for it to be justice, you know, we have to apply the laws to everyone. Not let everyone get away with murder. Not let everyone get away with rape. That is not justice for Black America. And that's not even what Bill Cosby was saying. Bill Cosby was trying to say he was an innocent Black man, wrongfully accused, wrongly imprisoned, and now he's out. That's a lie. That is a lie. He's not innocent. And it's not justice for any people to have rapists walking the streets. But yeah, I wanted to say that I was one of these people. I was one of these people that did not believe these women because I hadn't seen it for myself. I hadn't seen their stories. And I finally, yesterday, I had a lot of downtime yesterday. And as I was saying, I was watching the CNN documentary and all these other videos. And I finally got to look at them, to evaluate them for myself, like their body language, their facial expressions. And I want to say that before, when I finally switched over from not believing these women to believing them, it was because there were so many of them. It finally became like 60. And I just couldn't explain that number of women away. But mostly, I don't know if you were paying attention in my last video, but mostly the reason that I finally believed those women was actually because of stuff that Bill Cosby himself did and said. And the stuff that he did and the stuff that he said changed the view that I had of him in my mind as being America's dad, because America's dad would never do that stuff. But once we start adding in, okay, would America's dad be friends with Hugh Hefner and hang out at the Playboy Mansion? That's not really a family friendly image. If you're trying to have that family man image, you're not chilling with Hugh Hefner at the Playboy Mansion. So there was one strike. Then him claiming that those accusations of sexual encounters, that those were consensual. Oh, okay, America's dad. So you had 60 consensual, we'll call them affairs, sexual encounters with different women, 60 different women. Okay, that's not something America's dad would do. That's not something Heathcliff Huxtable would do. And joking about drugging women so that they would have sex with you, is that something that America's dad would do? Is that something he would do? And then in his deposition, when he said that he got Quaaludes to give to these women, put all of that together, he fell from being that saint, that Boy Scout, that like black version of Jimmy Stewart that I had of him in my mind. He fell from that. And once he was no longer America's dad, then I was like, this is something he could have done. The Dr. Heathcliff Huxtable would never have done this, but now that I see that that's not who he is, and then I see that there's too many coincidences here. If you didn't do this, why is all this stuff stacking up against you, right? There was way too much smoke for there to be no fire. And that's how I finally realized it. But it wasn't even really about those women. This was all stuff he had said and stuff he did. But after I watched that CNN documentary and saw those women tell their own stories, I believed them for them. And I wouldn't have needed 60 of them. You know what I mean? I probably would have needed more than one. Sadly, I'm just going to be real with you, because that's just where I was at the time. If I had seen this documentary years ago, I mean, it came out in 2018. By 2018, I already believed that Bill Cosby had done these things. But I'll just say, seeing them, I now believe them for them, not because of what Bill Cosby did or said. But even though I believe these women, right, does that mean I agree with, I already told you I don't, the saying, believe women or believe all women. I still believe that that is a very dangerous statement and that we shouldn't support it. And I know people are trying to back away and say, we never said that. You did. I'm not even gonna let people get away with saying that that's not what they were saying. The thing is, with my view versus believe women or believe all women, what winds up happening is we end up believing most of the same women are telling the truth, right? I believe most women. So the outcome is pretty similar, but there are some women who I kind of raise my eyebrow at and I'm very skeptical of. I'm not just going to believe you. So someone like Christine Blasey Ford, that woman who accused Brett Kavanaugh, oh, I 100% believe her. 100% believe her. I watched that Senate hearing that they had her in, where they interviewed her, and then they interviewed Brett Kavanaugh. And so what I said is, I look for who seems like they have more credibility. I don't really know either of you, right? But who in this situation seems to have the most credibility? That's all I can do as a complete stranger, right? I wasn't there. There's no video, right? So I'm just trying to see who has more credibility. And I'm going to tell you that woman came out of that hearing with way more credibility than Brett Kavanaugh. Brett Kavanaugh embarrassed himself and made him look like an idiot. Between the two of them, I believe her. She had credibility. And so I don't want people to think that when I say I don't believe all women, that means I don't believe any of you. No, I believe the ones that seem credible. And between the two of them, Christine Blasey Ford and Brett Kavanaugh did not seem credible at all. He was acting like a crazy fool in that hearing. He made a fool of himself, and as far as I'm concerned, I think at one point in that hearing they asked him, would you be okay with us doing an FBI investigation into this? And he wouldn't answer. He was like, would you tell them to do an FBI investigation? And he wouldn't answer. And I was like, dude, you just that's all we need to know. If you're an innocent man, if you know you didn't do anything wrong, then allow the FBI investigation. Allow it. What do you have all they're going to do is find out that you didn't do anything, right? Or it might be inconclusive because this is something that happened in the 80s when they were teenagers. But when in that moment when he wouldn't answer, I was like, buddy, between the two of y'all, you're the one with the lack of credibility right now. So I believe the women who come across as credible. But there are some women that are pretty problematic for the Me Too movement. And that's why I can't go along with believe women, believe all women. And I will give you an example. So I said, I know women lie. There are some women who lie. And they're like, oh, that hardly ever happens. It hardly ever happens. We don't need to worry about those men whose lives get ruined. And I'm like, okay, so it's time for me to bring up this woman. It's time for me to bring up Amber Heard. The reason I don't believe all women is because of women like Amber Heard. Amber Heard, the actress that was in Aquaman, she was dating Johnny Depp for a while, and then they got married, and she abused that man, physically abused him while they were dating. She physically abused him while they were married, and she has wrecked that man's life. She has wrecked his career, lying and saying that she was the one who was abused. And Johnny Depp has put out these recordings where we can hear her saying that she hit him. We can hear her saying, that she doesn't want Johnny Depp to leave the room when she gets angry. And he's trying to calm down the situation. And she's like, no, you have to stay and fight for me. What? Johnny Depp has been pleading his case and trying to prove that he is not a wife beater. And this actress has been lying through her teeth. And as I said, there are some women who are good actresses. There are some people that are good actresses, okay? But Amber Heard is not one of those people. I'm not going to say she's not a good actress in movies. I'm not talking about her career. I'm talking about, if you go online, you can see Amber Heard's deposition where she is talking about being supposedly attacked, supposedly abused by her husband, her ex-husband, Johnny Depp. And like I said, I look at facial expressions. I look at body language. I look at her mannerisms, and I try to tell, does this seem believable? And you can clearly tell she's lying. You can clearly tell she's making that stuff up as she goes along. You can clearly tell. It's so painfully obvious. She's not a good actress when she needs to lie in real life. She's not. And I said in my other video, there are women who, I was talking about an episode of Law and Order SVU that I watched. Fake stories, but based on real stories. And there was one episode where there was a girl, and she had lied about being raped. You find out at the end, and she had faked all the bruises. Amber Heard used makeup to fake bruises. She accused Johnny Depp of throwing a cell phone at her face and then used makeup to fake bruises on her face. I know we want to pretend like these women don't exist, that every woman who says they were abused or assaulted is telling the truth. And I said the vast majority of them are. But you have women like Amber Heard that ruin it for all of us. They ruin it for every woman who is telling the truth and wants to be believed. There is an Amber Heard out there ruining it for you. And just like Bill Cosby is going around now acting like he is this champion for wrongfully accused, wrongly imprisoned black men, and he represents all of those black men who have been thrown in prison when they were innocent. Amber Heard has since gone around acting like she is a champion for women who have been abused and she's not going to take it anymore. Amber Heard, okay, has a history of domestic violence. She has a record showing that she has abused former partners, both male and female. She has abused former partners. And she gets to be a champion of women's rights and a champion for abused women. Oh, I I so don't tell me believe all women, okay? Don't tell me that. I don't like seeing that woman whenever I see her on TV, whenever they have those L'Oreal commercials. I'm just like, how dare you? You wrecked a man's life. Now, the difference is Johnny Depp he's wealthy. I mean, I'm saying his career is wrecked, but he's had a career for decades. He's got plenty of money, okay? But maybe he wanted to keep acting, right? Maybe he wanted to continue having a career. It's not looking good. I mean, I don't know. I hope that it goes well with him. Um, but she lied and she ruined that man's career moving forward. So don't tell me that women don't lie. Don't tell me believe all women, because there are Amber Heards thrown in the mix. There's all the Bill Cosby accusers. There's the Christine Blasey Fords. And then there's the Amber Heards mixed in. And we have to figure out which of these are Amber Heards, okay? Which of these guys are Bill Cosby's? Which of these guys are Brett Kavanaugh's? And which of these guys are Johnny Depp's? Okay? Which of these guys really didn't do it? Which of these guys' lives are we about to totally trash over someone who was lying? And that's all I'm saying. I don't believe all women. I think we need to try and figure out who's got credibility and who doesn't. So there are the women who are just flat out lying, whether because they're crazy. I don't know why they're doing it. Okay, I don't know why Amber Heard is lying about Johnny Depp. She's crazy. But Johnny Depp has provided plenty of evidence, enough audio recordings for us to know who Amber Heard is. And we have Amber Heard's own deposition where you can clearly see she's lying. Okay? So I don't know why she's doing what she's doing, but people want to believe her. Okay? But then you have a different type of woman. And it's not that she's 100% lying, but that she's reinterpreting the events to allow her to be a part of the Me Too movement. And these are the women who they had consensual sex with someone. And then the next day they regret it. Or they had consensual sex with someone, as in someone asked them and they said yes, but they really didn't want to in the moment. And they should have said no, but they gave in and they said yes anyway. And then the next day they feel pretty cruddy about it. And then they go on and accuse the guy of raping them, of sexually assaulting them. And we've heard these stories too. And I can think of two women. I'm not going to name them. One of them is extremely famous because of the person that this was involving. And another woman who is not famous at all. But as far as I'm concerned, neither of these women should have anything to do with the Me Too movement. Because in both of these cases, these women, how do I want to word this? I'll just say it. We're adults. These women gave men blowjobs, right? And they consented, okay? And then later, they want to say, well, there was a power differential. This person was older than me, and they had a higher position in life than me. And, but you consented to doing this. You were old enough to know what you were doing, right? In more ways than one. You were old enough to know what you were doing. And, if you're talking about, oral sex, you were the active party in this encounter. So how can then you turn around later and say you were raped, or this was sexual assault. They want to, because you regret it, because you feel bad about it, or because you wanted to be in a relationship with that man and it didn't pan out that way, and you feel bad because you were used. Were you used? You were used. Yes. I'm not gonna hate on a woman who feels used when a man is um wanting to have sex with you, or asking you for sexual favors, and then he doesn't turn it into a relationship after that. It's just, so you just wanted some random woman to give you a blowjob or something like that, or you just wanted to have sex with somebody and you didn't even want to have a relationship with them. Like, of course that person was used. But there is a difference between using someone and raping them. Those are not the same thing, you know? And so I do have a problem with these women being lumped in to the wider Me Too movement, because it's that's not the same as these women who are drugged and raped right against their will. It's not the same as some woman who gets dragged into an alley. That's not the same as these women who have, somebody has a knife at their throat or a gun at their head, or, you know, these women were sexually assaulted, versus these other women chose to give sexual favors to a man that was older than them, that they admired, that they maybe were in love with, that they liked, and then they feel bad about it later, or they get maybe public scrutiny and they don't like it, and they want to say, well, this guy was he was the older person. He was the one that had more power. He was the one that had more responsibility for this situation. I shouldn't, I shouldn't be made to feel bad. This falls on the guy. And that's a really interesting argument to make, because it's an argument of patriarchy. These women are actually upholding patriarchy when they say that, to shield themselves from taking responsibility for what they did. If you're 22 or if you're 17, if the laws of your state or your city, wherever, say that you are the age of consent, or you're just flat out an adult. If you're 22, you're freaking an adult. So, you know, then you want to use patriarchy to shield yourself from responsibility and say, well, he was older than me and he had more power than me and he had, this shouldn't fall on me. I shouldn't have to take responsibility for this. I shouldn't be made to feel bad for what I did. He was older than me. He took advantage of me. Okay. Did he take advantage of you? Yes. Did he rape you? No. Were you sexually assaulted? No. Should you be a part of the Me Too movement? No. You just have to take accountability for what you did. There are a lot of women who consent to have sex with men and they regret it afterwards, and they feel used, and they were used, and that's sad, and that's unfortunate. But they don't claim that they were raped. I could never imagine going to my friends and telling them, I thought this guy that I had a crush on loved me. He asked me to give him a blowjob. I did. And then, now he doesn't want to see me again and in any way. And that was sexual assault. Like, it's not sexual assault that you did this and that a relationship didn't come out of it. That's not sexual assault that you feel used. It's you being used, but it's not sexual assault. Well, especially if it's a blowjob. You can't claim that you were sexually assaulted when you were the one doing the action, right? Women who are like that and try to be a part of the Me Too movement, it makes me want to pull my hair out. It really does. And then you want to hide behind patriarchy. The same patriarchy you're trying to tear down is now the patriarchy that you want to hide behind, so that you can avoid having to take responsibility for what you did, which was being of age and having a consensual sexual encounter that shouldn't have happened. Now the guy needs to take responsibility. So it really is because of the Amber Heards of the world who just flat out lie and ruin a man's life. And these other women who they're not, I mean, they tell the story of what happened, but then they frame it as sexual assault. Or they frame it as, they frame it that way. And I'm just like, no. I mean, what you said is true, but then the title you're giving it, sexual assault, that's not what that is. You weren't dragged into an alley. Nobody had a gun to your head. Nobody had a knife to your throat. You know what I'm saying? So that is why I don't believe all women. That is why I believe most women. Most women who I hear their story and I can try and to the best of my ability evaluate their credibility. And I think to those people who are still looking at these Bill Cosby accusers and saying, yay, Bill Cosby is innocent. He got out of prison. These women are lying. And da da da. I wonder, have you watched this CNN documentary? I'm definitely gonna link it in the description box. Have you watched these women tell their story? Have you looked at their facial expressions? Have you looked at their body language? Do you really think, for me, it doesn't need to be 60 women when I can see them tell their story, and I want you, and you know what I'm going to do? If it's still available, I'm also going to link that Amber Heard deposition so that you can see the difference with what I'm talking about. Someone who's telling their painful story of how they were abused and they look like they're lying, right? I'm going to link both of these, and I want you to watch this documentary, and I want you to like be real. Does it look like these women are lying? Does it look like they're acting? What do they have to gain right now? Because like I said, I'm always like, well, maybe they're trying to take advantage of these celebrities. Maybe they're trying to get money. Maybe they're trying to get fame. And one of the interviews, the woman says, who wants 15 minutes of shame? Because that's what it is. Like Christine Blasey Ford accusing Brett Kavanaugh. I feel so bad for that woman. All the stuff that she had to go through, all of the hate mail, the death threats, all the crazy stuff that she went through. Did she get a $1 million check from that? I mean, I don't know. Did the quality of her life improve in any way by accusing Brett Kavanaugh? I don't think so. I think her life definitely got harder. I hope she's doing well now, but her life did not get better because she came forward and accused him of that. It didn't. These women are being ridiculed by the world. They're being called horrible names. And it's such a shame how quickly people go to death threats. I'm like, really? You're death threats? Really? Like, this is insane. These women, their lives are not getting better from coming forward and saying someone did this to them, right? Their lives are not getting better. They're not getting millions of dollars, And even if they did get money, they should only get money if this person actually did these things. They have to have some type of justice, some type of compensation, something for the pain and trauma that they went through. So even if they did get money, like, somebody raped you, like, you owe me something. You can't undo the rape, you can't undo the trauma, but you need to compensate me in some way for what you did to me. And if money is the only thing that you can give people, then they would be entitled to that. But these women are not getting rich off of this, right? They're not getting rich. They're not. I mean, these women many of them are in their 60s, 70s, It's not like they're reviving their acting careers in their 60s and 70s. These women are just telling you so you know that Bill Cosby is not America's dad. So I hope that, we can go back and look at these women, tell their stories, and do an honest assessment. And some of these people are never going to believe, they're always going to believe, that Bill Cosby is this awesome guy. But I think for people who, rational people, I think you have to get to a place where you want the truth more than you want you need to love the truth more than you love Bill Cosby. Like, are you willing to, like, if you had to choose between the two, if it was like, look, there's a possibility that Bill Cosby did this, and there's a possibility that he didn't. If the truth is that he did it, are you willing to choose the truth over your love of Bill Cosby? Or are you so in love with him that you would rather hold on to the lie of him being America's dad? Like, I would say we need to love the truth more than, this outcome that we are fixated on it. Like, my outcome that I'm fixated on might be, I want Bill Cosby to be innocent no matter what. But the question is, are you willing to sacrifice the truth for that? I think we need to value the truth. And if the truth is that this man is guilty of this, then we need to be willing to let go of the Cosby Show, let go of, America's dad, of Heathcliff Huxtable, and accept the reality that that man that we loved is not who we thought he was. He's not who we thought he was. So I felt like saying that. I felt like I needed to say that. It's pretty long-winded, but I had a lot that I wanted to cover. As I said, I'm going to link these videos, that CNN documentary. If I can find that Amber Heard deposition, I am putting that in the description, and I hope you watch it so that people understand. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to discredit women who are victims. I really am trying to understand. But I don't want to be lied to, and there are some women who lie. And I'm going to put some example. I'm going to put her up there so that you can see Amber Heard is why I don't believe all women. But the Bill Cosby accusers and Christine Blasey Ford, they are why I believe most women. All right. I hope this resonates with somebody. All right. Take care.